Hey, you guys, happy Wednesday. I was going to say happy afternoon. All right, I am just getting everything in order here. So I think I saw a question or I dreamed it. Sometimes with all the messaging and just all these different ways we get messages now with Facebook and Messenger and Instagram, somebody was curious, I think, about the mud paint. And hang on one second, gonna make sure I text my texting group. And if you want to be a part of that, I'll read that number to you real quick. 860-385-6369. And you'll get a text from me when I'm live, so you can sit here and watch me make something, and hopefully it works. All right, so the mud paint is not a new paint. It's relatively new to me, but I think they've been around. I don't know when they started, but I love this paint, and that's what the project that we're doing today I'm using. I just think it's a really creamy, beautiful paint. It's not a chalk paint, it's a clay-based paint. And the difference that I've noticed is the coverage. The coverage is really beautiful. So I'll quickly tell you what I carry at chalkmercantile.com. That's where you shop. Surfaceanthology.com is where you go for my membership and for education and all that good stuff. I carry Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint. I carry Amy Howard at Home One Step paint. That is a chalk paint with a built-in top coat. And now I carry mud paint. So that'll be listed soon on my website at chalkmercantile.com. So that's it. Oh, and I love these little 4-ounce sizes. There are actually a lot of paint in here. So I got a whole bunch of 4-ounce, 8-ounce, and pints. So you'll be able to see that pretty soon, and I'll send out a text, and you know me, I'll blab about it when it's available. Oh, and one more thing I wanted to let somebody know. I asked about this project. It's doing great. It's completely dry. If you're curious about this, you could just go to my YouTube channel, surfaceanthology.com. I have a bunch of the cameo molds. I no longer have the frames mold. It is out of stock. I tried to order it, but it's out of stock at Iron Orchid. As soon as it's available again, you know I'll be getting that in. And I love how this came out. So that worked out well. So now we're carrying on with this tray, and I completely painted it. I taped the bottom because I want to leave that plain wood if I want to use it as a riser. And now we're going to put in the inlays. And I said yesterday during my live that I was going to do this off camera, but I thought, why not do it on camera, right? We don't care how long it takes as long as you get to see it. So here are the paint inlays. I have a couple of sheets, and I have a whole bunch of scraps. Because what I want to do is show you. I want to do the base and the little sides here. So the angled sides. So that's what I want to do. But first thing you have to do, and this is one of the things I forgot to do when I was first starting to use these inlays, is you have to cut off this border. You see that border right there? Right? That border has to be cut off, because when you're turning this over and lining it up, we tend to want to just line it up with the top of the paper, and then we're not going to have any of the paint inlay on there. So we have to cut that. So I'm going to do that now. And it's really easy if you have a like a long quilter's ruler and a rotary cutter, which I do. And I'm going to do it this way. And I'm just going right up to the edge, trying not to cut into the paint inlay because we want all that goodness left there. Ugh. Pet hairs. I get dog fur and cat fur now. I have to vacuum a lot more now that we have the 2 dogs who hate being brushed. And my cats love being brushed. Okay. So there is the border cut. And I'm even going to do it to the scraps because you just don't want to get into a situation where you've got a little strip where you then have to go and cut more of the paint inlay to cover a little strip. And really what you should do as soon as you get your paint inlays, just do the step. Don't even wait, so that way it's like they're done, they're cut, and you don't have to think about it anymore, and you'll be less likely to make a mistake like me. All right, so those, nope. And save all your little scraps because when you have those little cute projects, these are fabulous. I'm actually going to cut this one apart. I'm going to cut these corner pieces apart, make them easier to handle. So I have strips. All right, then we have the big pieces. I am completely addicted to these paint inlays, and there are going to be new designs coming out, and I cannot wait to get those. All right. It's a little tedious, but it must be done. And I've used, if you go to my Surface Anthology YouTube channel, I've used these paint inlays with milk paint, chalk paint with and without a top coat in it. And I find them really pretty easy to use. They have a distressed look. There's a lot of texture in the paint after you put your paint inlay in, and you'll see that. But they're so unique and so beautiful. I just love them. All right, if I use that one, I'll do it then. Now, this is the step where we decide what's gonna go where. And as you can see, this doesn't quite fit. And by the way, this is the right side, the bright side, and that's the wrong side where you can see the grid. When we're working with this, we're going to be working with it right side down. So I'm going to put this in, and this is how I do it. There's definitely, you're going to come up with your own unique way of working, like with anything, the more you work on it. But I just kind of use my fingers to press in, right, to make a crease where I'm going to need to cut that. You could take like this putty knife and kind of go in if you want to make it extra sharp. You can get an X-Acto blade and cut it if you'd like. I just do that, and then I come back with my scissors and I cut it on the crease, the fold that I've created. And usually I'm actually going to move this over. I'm standing up to do this. There we go. Oh, I wonder if these are righty scissors. Or is it just me? I'm uncoordinated. So even a little strip like this, save it, because if you make a mistake, you might want to use that. Okay, so we've got our first piece cut. And for now, let's do this bottom part. Let's see if any of my scraps will work. No. This is too thin. Too thin. No. So, I think what I'm going to do, I'm not really concerned because as I said yesterday, I want to do a lot of really heavy distressing and see how it looks. So I think now what I'm going to do is put this in, and of course now I need to cut off the border. So you see what I mean? If you just get it done when you get your project, you know, organized, when you get your inlays in, it makes it so much easier. Okay. And I love this. This is the rose chintz. I love this for spring. It's definitely got that old kind of English look, you know, old English cottage kind of look to it. And I really love that. So what a great way to bring spring colors into your home, into your decor. And somebody asked me, is this a transfer? And I said, no, this is not a transfer. It's totally and completely different. Nobody else is making anything like this. Iron Orchid is the only one. The sisters thought of this, created it. And if you think of it, this is like actual paint, water-based paint on this paper. It's like gouache, and gouache is an opaque watercolor. That's what this reminds me of. All right, I'm going to turn this over for a second and see how this will look if I do something like this. Because they do kind of line up. They do line up. They don't kind of line up. They line up. And I'm going to do it this way. For this design, I'm not worried about lining them up, but you'll see in the book on the back of when you get your book of inlays, you'll see on the back how you can line them up, and they all meet together. But for this, because I'm going to be distressing it, I'm not really worried about that. So I'm going to put this down. I am lining up the edges here. And then I'm just going to, I have 2 places I need to cut. right? We've got right here. And then right there. And these little dotted lines on the back are helpful also. Okay. You can see that's the paint. As I was cutting through it, it kind of gets a little crumbly. All right, what did I just do with that piece? I want to get that out. Oh, there it is. And really what I should use, I don't have a dry brush with me. But we really don't want that to get blended in. Okay, now I put it back. Hey Danielle, how are you doing? Thanks for joining me. We're carrying on with our tray. Now I cut this piece and you see it fits right in there. So what I advise you to do so you don't put these down the wrong way is I'm just going to move them as they are next to me, put a nice coat of paint down, and then I'm going to put them into the paint. So I'm just going to lift this up, put it next to me, and this one right down at the bottom so I know. So now here's how we put in the paint inlay. I mixed up my paint. And this is the mud paint. And I've got my brush. I've been painting all day, you guys. I swear, I have to, Danielle, my hands are getting so dry. I'm like, I've got to remember to put moisturizer. Do you guys find that? My hands feel like sandpaper. All right, so what you need is a nice thick coat of paint, okay? You don't want it crazy thick, but you want it thick enough. And this is where the practice comes in. This is why I created that the Paint Inlay kit with the workshop. So people could kind of practice before you take on a big project. So I'm putting on my paint, a nice coat. And there's two things I forgot that I'm going to have to get up and get. My brayer, and I just need some more paper towels, and you'll see why. So I put on a nice coat. We're not pouring it on, but we need something for that paint inlay to go into. It's dry hands time of the year. It is, and my hands are actually getting caught. My skin, like if I pick up a microfiber cloth, oh my God, it's the weirdest feeling in the world. All right, let me get my brayer. Okay, paper towels, a brayer, and my little spray bottle. Okay, so I put down my nice coat of paint, and now we're gonna put the paint inlays right into this. So remember how we had them. I'm just gonna pull it back over and line it up. And just put that right into the paint. Just like that. Okay, and then now I gotta get the hair out of my eyes. I think it's like my hair is staticky too, Danya. Oh my goodness. All right, and then we put our bottom piece down. And remember, I didn't match up the design, but you certainly can. The inlays give you that ability. Okay, so now I take my brayer and I'm gonna smooth this out. Just so I get really good contact. And you should actually go kind of from the middle of your design out. So if there's any big air bubbles, you kind of push them out. And this is a rustic piece, so there's areas that I know are not gonna, it's not gonna meet because there's a lot of there's a gap in the two boards, and that is okay. All right, then what I wanna do is take some paper towels. You can use a towel, a terry cloth towel works really well. Dampen it, and we're gonna press it down. Make like a pad. And I've got my favorite misting bottle. I just wanna get around the edges there. And then we're gonna take this, and I'm just gonna pat down. Especially around these edges. But this ensures good contact. And I even want to add a little bit more. I love these misting bottles, by the way, they're so great. But I'm just pressing this down. All right, and I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to get that little corner. I'm going to press down with my putty knife just to get the corner in. I'm pressing down. I'm not poking it. Just so I really have that design into the paint. All right, this looks good. And for what I'm going to do for the rest of the sides, I'll do one of them now, but I think I'm going to wait for this to actually dry and then do the sides, so I'm not messing around with this wet paint. But I want to show you guys. So it's the same deal. We have to kind of piece how this is going to go in. And I think I'll do one of the short ends first. I think that looks good. So I've got my piece, right, fit right in there, and I'm just gonna take my finger where I know I'm gonna need to cut it, like that, take this off, and then cut right on those little marks that I made. Okay, and then the same thing, let me grab my brush, put that down, and I'm going to put on a nice coat, trying not to paint on my inlay that's already down. inlay. Line it up. You know who would be great at these inlays? People who do wallpaper. They are so good at this. All right. You know, piecing and all of that. Okay, so there it is. Then we grab our, and try not to wet pieces of inlay that are hanging around. I'm gonna take my wet cloth and pat this in. All right, so now I have to wait for this to dry at least an hour. And what I'll probably do, I'm not gonna make Danielle sit here with me and wait, you know, watching paint dry. But when this gets to the point where I feel pretty confident I can't wreck it by getting it wet, you know, as I move around, by, you know, that I think it's got good contact, it's on its way to drying, I'm gonna complete these edges and then I'm gonna come back. I don't know, it's 2:30. I'm gonna come back tomorrow and so this is gonna have like, it's gonna have almost a full day to dry. And then I'm gonna show you how we lift them off. I'll dry it, you know, because it'll be a little bit damp, and we'll distress and see how that looks. But you get an idea of how it's gonna look already, and I can't wait. Danielle, thank you so much for joining me today. Everybody, I'll see you back here tomorrow, and we'll finish this. Any questions at all, please ask me in the comments. I'll find them. Or if you belong to the text group, and I'll say that number again, 860-385-6369. You can ask me there. All right, you guys. All right, Danielle, thanks again. I'll see you tomorrow. Happy painting, everybody.